earpiece in and it does? Just let me know.
Okay. See what...
How's that? Is that any better?
Yeah, that is a little better.
Okay.
That gives you... I could use a little more volume from you if you got that, but...
no, that's it.
That's it. Okay, baby.
It goes for some reason.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. I think it's going to be just fine. Okay, let's have some fun. Here we go.
Okay.
From the hill country of Texas, this is One Radio Network. And fun we do have, yes. It's nice to be here. Good morning. How are you? It's a few minutes after 10 o'clock. Just a minute or so. And my name is Patrick Timpone. And you've got OneRadioNetwork.com for a beautiful Central Texas morning. I hope it's pretty and where you are. But then again, rain is cool too. We love the rain. We just broke out of about a 3-year drought here in Central Texas. So the springs are flowing, and I can hear the waterfall now at night on my near my home. And oh man, nothing like water, eh? Well, we have a good show for you this morning. Quickly, tomorrow, Open Phone Friday, and then Dr. Russell Blaylock about swine flu on Saturday at 6 p.m. So good things coming up. This morning, a show that we have been looking forward to because it's hard to catch this man. He is on the move a lot. His name is Aajonus Vonderplanitz. What a great name. He's a nutritional scientist and author, health motivator, teacher. 2 books, We Want to Live, The Primal Diet, and also the recipe for living without disease. He's everything raw kind of guy, and when we catch him, he's in Malibu. Aajonus, good morning. Thanks for getting up early. I know it's about 8 o'clock there.
Well, thank you. I've been up since 4.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I sleep about 4 hours a night, 4.5.
And so, really, you go to bed at midnight and wake up at 4?
The night before that, I only had 1 hour and 15 minutes.
And how long have you been doing that kind of a regimen?
Oh, probably for about 10 years.
Really? So what about this idea that we have to get X amount of sleep per night in a row for all of our hormones and all the rechemicalization? I guess you don't buy into that, or
well, I don't need to, because I don't eat all of the processed cooked foods that make the body overwork. Because when you cook foods, you destroy the structure of enzymes, the vitamins. You restructure the chemicals in it, the proteins, the carbohydrates, the fats. They become lipid peroxides, heterocyclic amines, and acrylamides, and a compound of other toxins. Right now, we've scientifically identified 32. There are many more, but they refuse to, academically, they refuse to search anymore.
I heard... What was an acrylamide, one of those substances that they found when you did French fries and potato chips and things like that? Yeah, didn't that come out in the news some time ago?
Yes, anything you cook has an acrylamide factor. It's just that fried, high-carbohydrate foods are the highest, like cereals, French fries, any chips. Those are the worst foods. And they find that in cancerous conditions, a high density of acrylamides are found in tumors.
So
anywhere from 30 to 60% of a tumor will be acrylamide.
I see. So it's even more dangerous frying or cooking the carbs than it is the meat.
Correct.
I see. Do you think it's a real downside for people who sear their meat very quickly for 10 or 15 seconds? Do you think we're losing anything there if we do that?
Well, you're losing some, yes.
Uh-huh.
Of course, you're not losing a lot compared to if you cook it thoroughly.
Sure, of course. We're talking seconds.
Yes.
People have been on...
just look at it this way.
Okay.
If you put your arm on a frying pan for 2 seconds, that's the kind of damage you're going to do.
I see.
So you might damage all of your skin, but you may not damage the muscle.
Uh-huh. We've had people on the show in the past, Aajonus, that suggest that a good way to protect against any kind of buggies on the meat is to do that, and then there are no parasites in the meat unless the meat is really sickly. Do you think that's a consideration worth thinking about?
Not at all. I've been eating raw meats full of bacteria and even parasites since 1976, when I began eating raw meats, September 76. And I've never had a problem.
Never. Now, one might argue that Aajonus Vonderplanitz probably has one of the most gangbuster guts going with the amount of hydrochloric acid and things. So, is that a fair statement?
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
And it's a Vonderplanitz.
Vonderplanitz.
Yes, Vonderplanitz.
Okay.
No, because when I had cancer when I was 19, actually the incision, the surgery was performed on me at 20 years old. I had the vagotomy pyloroplasty, which means they severed all the vagus nerves to my stomach, told me that I would never ever, I had stomach cancer, I would never be able to eat anything raw again, or else I'd be in danger of death from parasitical and bacterial invasion. I was not even allowed to eat raw apples or bananas. They all had to be cooked, steamed, or some way heat-treated. And so I did that and just got sicker and sicker. And then when I started eating raw foods and raw meats, I never had a problem, even though I still don't have the hydrochloric acid in the stomach.
Do you think you have it now?
Well, I have it in the small intestines. We have it in the small intestines. Just I don't have that concentration in the stomach.
And, wow. So by eating raw with the enzymes and things, Aajonus, then that it works for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be dead 42 years ago, so here I am.
Yeah, the rumor of your death was slightly exaggerated.
Yeah.
Here's our phone number if you have a question for this gentleman. Aajonus Vonderplanitz. I said Boulder, but it's Vonderplanitz. Here's the phone number, 888-663-6386. We'll put you on hold and pick it up live on the air, so just hang out there. You'll be able to hear the show as you're on hold. And if you're shy, we can do emails. Patrick at oneradionetwork.com. And we have emails already waiting for you. Want to get to some of them? Would that be all right with you, Aajonus?
Yes, absolutely.
Here we go. This is from Amir. Can you please ask Aajonus why it's good to eat lots of honey but not fruit, since they both contain similar sugars?
Well, that's an easy question. That's an easy answer.
Even you can do that one.
Yes, the bees collect the nectar, and they swallow it. And when they swallow it, they produce an insulin-like substance which converts the carbohydrates into enzymes for digesting and utilizing fats and protein. If you heat the honey over 93 degrees, you destroy that insulin-like substance, and it goes back to sugar. So fruits don't have that. Well, there are a few foods that have an inulin type substance, like in the Jerusalem artichoke and in some melons. So they aren't as high as in sugar as if you analyze them. But when you analyze a food, you have to treat it, and when you treat it, you convert it into a carbohydrate for testing.
Oh.
So that's what they do with the honey, and they say, well, we tested honey, and it's all carbohydrate, no matter if it's raw or otherwise. Well, if they didn't use those methods in testing, they wouldn't convert it back out of an enzyme relationship pattern.
You mentioned 93 degrees. We've always heard that 118 is the number for killing enzymes. Lower for honey?
Well, enzymes aren't alive.
They're not alive?
No, they're proteins that are structured together in myriads of different ways to either disassemble cellular particles so that bacteria can eat it, or to reassemble. So enzymes have many different, structures, but no, they're not alive. They have no, just like virus, they have no nucleus, they have no respiratory system, no digestive tract. They're just protein structures. It's like saying a house is alive even though it's functional. No, it's not alive. It's the way it's structured. But you can damage those by heat. You fractionate the bonds of the proteins, so then they fall apart, and then they don't perform the function that they were supposed to, either to assemble or disassemble.
So they're not living, but they're by not heating substances, we keep them in a form that our body likes?
Well, yes. When we take in an enzyme from a food, we will disassemble it in a way that it will be restructured. Those enzymes are registered with the pancreas, and the pancreas is the architect of the body, and it will decide how that food will be destructured and restructured. And it sends that information to the intestinal tract. As the 90% of digestion is bacterial. Only 10% is supposed to be enzymatic, digestive juices.
Bacterial. So we actually have then these bacteria in the stomach itself, or just in the lower and?
We have the Campylobacter in the stomach, and of course the ones grown in a laboratory are not really natural. So then the pharmaceutical industry, medical industry, and health departments point to that and say, "See, it eats healthy cells." Well, only if it's out of its natural environment. Campylobacter is not a janitor. It's a bacteria that helps destructure certain foods and helps digest it. Now, if 90% of our food comes from bacteria, that means we eat the excrement and secretions of bacteria after they eat the food. Our digestive enzymes will disassemble or break apart large food particles so that bacteria can eat. Now, a lot of people with all of the food additives are destroying, and all the antibiotics and antiseptics are destroying their ability to digest because they're destroying their bacteria. 99% of all functions in the body are bacterial. So the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry keep people sick, and that's their intent. And you can say, "Oh, that's conspiracy theory." And I would have to say, absolutely, the same way the tobacco industry puts chemicals in your cigarettes to release the nicotine and keep you addicted. It's a fact.
Let's take a call or two. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello.
Hi, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hello, gentlemen. My name is Yuri. I'm calling you from Ukraine. First of all, I want to thank you both. Patrick, your show is awesome, and Aajonus, your raw concept is enlightening. I have this question. Several people that I know, myself included, have suffered from practicing intermittent fasting, that is, eating one meal a day. That caused massive health problems, including cold intolerance, extreme fatigue, and I think it's related to hormones. So could you suggest how to bounce back and recover effectively from hormone imbalance, something like that?
Well, when you eat one meal a day, you have great deals of problems. The first and major is that the blood protein drops after 5 hours of not eating. And if you don't eat, let's say if you ate fruit in that one meal, then you're never supplying the proteins properly. So the red blood cells become cannibalistic and they eat each other. So let's say you're sleeping an 8-hour period, 8 to 10 hours at night, and you don't waken and you don't eat anything in that period. Depending upon how active your body is in your sleep, your heart rate, and your brain activity and your lungs, you can consume anywhere from 2 to 4 tablespoons of red blood cells every night. That means that you will wake up with anemia. That's why people who awaken after 8 to 10 hours and are tired have to go for some kind of drug like caffeine or nicotine or theobromine or theophysine, something like that from chocolate, to boost their energy level because they have anemia. And those drugs are not a cure for anemia. Eating's a cure for anemia. So I suggest for people who, during the night that they wake up, if you're a very hyperactive person, and if you eat after 5 hours, you can't go back to sleep, and you want 8 hours, then it's better to wake after 3 hours and then sleep 5 hours. But to recover from that kind of eating from a mono diet, it's called a mono meal diet. It's usually better to sip on raw milk, to eat lots of raw eggs. Raw eggs digest in about 27 minutes because your body doesn't require, or it's not required of your body to form enzymes to disassemble large food particles. It's already in liquid form, so the bacteria can go right to work. So it only takes up about 27 minutes and about 5 inches of the small intestines to digest and absorb eggs. If you're eating one at a time, if you eat two at a time, it could take about 50 minutes or less. So eggs are the best way to supply massive amount of nutrients and reawaken the digestive tract. And sipping on some raw milk throughout the day is also helpful.
So if one wakes up in the middle of the night and they want to try to do a whole 8-hour stretch, you could eat a little protein then, and in the middle of the night?
Sleep, yes.
And just eat a little protein of some kind?
Yes.
A little sip, some raw milk or egg?
Yeah, you could have like a half a cup of raw milk or a couple of raw eggs or, about a golf ball size of meat, raw meat.
Does that help you, Mr. Ukraine?
Yeah, thank you very much for the explanation.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for calling. We sure appreciate that you're out there. What's your first name and where are you calling from?
Patrick, Ben D'Agostino, Albany, New York.
Hi, Albany. Go ahead. You're on the air with Aajonus Vonderplanitz.
Vonderplanitz. I know. Aajonus, in your book, We Want to Live, you mentioned taking olive oil for cataracts. Can you suggest anything else plus the olive oil?
Yes, you can use any kind of a good cleansing raw fat. Coconut cream is an oil that you can get. Now, the only truly raw fat that I recommend are all pressed under 96 degrees, and there's no oil that you can get pressed under 96 degrees these days unless you're pressing it yourself. And I've watched people, and they claimed that their oils were pressed under a certain temperature, and I took a heat gun, a thermometer gun, and held it right up against where the oil was coming out, and it was going all the way up to 176 with pumpkin seeds and flax seeds about the same. It was down to as low as 134 with pumpkin seeds, but usually it went higher. Sunflower seeds, after about a minute of pressing, was down to a good temperature, but that's not in a high manufacturing environment. So I found that you can only get stone-pressed olive oil and coconut cream if you press it yourself with like a Green Star juicer. There is one oil that's pressed under 93 degrees in Thailand, and if you went to thaiorganics.com, that website, that's the oil. I sat and watched all day, watched them make that one in Thailand, so I know it's good.
That's a good lead, thaiorganics.com, and they have an olive oil on there under 96 degrees.
Correct. No, not an olive oil, that's a coconut oil.
I'm sorry, coconut oil.
Yeah, theirs is a coconut oil.
Okay.
You can get quite a few stone-pressed olive oils in this country. You just have to know what brands.
And call them up and maybe really find out what they're doing.
Well, most of them will lie to you. If you say it's stone pressed, then you'll get a truthful answer. Because when you're stone pressing, it can never go over 82 degrees.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's interesting. Did that help, Ben?
Thanks very much, Patrick and Aajonus. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
You're quite welcome. 888-663-6386. Aajonus Vonderplanitz, WeWantToLive.com. You can also, I think it's, doesn't PrimalDiet.com get them there as well?
Yes, well, that's my publisher's website for my book.
I see.
We Want to Live with the 2 is a numeral 2 rather than T-O, so it's We Want to Live. .com. That is a couple that I've contracted with to publish my information that's beyond my books.
Richard writes that he wants to know why some of the combinations, for example, in your drink, what's it called? He doesn't mention it, but what's your famous one? Is the power drink. Yeah, the power drink, like putting the lungs together.
Right.
Well, with the other
brain,
the brain in that, is there a magical component to that, or do we lose anything if we don't have one of those? Do we lose?
No,
much?
you don't lose. Well, you may lose a little bit. Let's say the brain stimulators won't be there if you don't have brain in it, and those particular organ stimulators or glandular stimulators won't be there. But you'll get the benefits of the others.
Yeah. I have to tell you, folks, your host has had some experience because the first time we talked to Aajonus, he had suggested trying some thyroids from grass-fed animals and maybe adrenals. And since then, we've been doing that. I have, and friends of mine, and my thyroid and adrenals, they're really getting stronger. So, Aajonus, it works.
Yes, it does.
It works.
Listen, I wouldn't be doing this if it didn't work.
It works. And it's so interesting, the fellow that you turned us on to, we really like a lot, and that's Amos Miller of Miller's Organic in Birdenham, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And a friend of mine, a doctor, actually had an experience with a buffalo place up in the northwest, and
North Star Bison in Weiss, Wisconsin.
Yeah, and he was getting thyroids from them. Correct. And the last time he called, they said, well, you really need a prescription.
Well, the FDA is telling them that, yes, now.
Oh, gosh, well. Okay, here is an email from JM. Greetings, Aajonus. Would you pronounce judgment upon? Would you pronounce judgment upon? Okay. Upon
what?
I'm going to tell you right here. Okay. Regional seasonal nutrition, i.e. light, watery cleansing foods in the summer and spring, heavy, dense foods in the winter.
Well, that's definitely following nature. When it's cold, your body needs to thicken the blood, and you use less water, less H2O. I don't drink any water at all from fall through winter, and even into spring.
Enough moisture in the raw meats and fats and vegetables and fruits.
Yes, well, your meat's 55% water.
Really?
And fruits anywhere from 90 to 92% water. Milk is 82 to 86% water, but it's mainly 86% water. So everything is full of water. And it's ionically bound and mineral bound the way it should be delivered to cells. Cells should rarely ever be given straight water, H2O, because it causes dryness.
So the purists that say, well, that's fine, well and good, but you still need basic, clean, good water, at least X, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that happened in 1961 and 62 when Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola's side trust decided to bottle water. So they hired all these doctors to go out and tell people that they needed to drink 8 glasses of water a day. Before that, you never heard anybody say you need to drink water.
Is that right?
It
like
was milk and orange juice and things like that.
I'll be darned. You mean like in the early 1900s, there wasn't a thing about drinking so much water? This is
never. In fact, it was known you shouldn't drink water.
Because?
Because it dehydrates cells and it dries out the intestines and washes nutrients away.
Let's go to the telephone again. Hi, what's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is John DeRosa, and I'm calling from Washington, D.C. area.
Hi, John. Go ahead. You're on the air with Aajonus.
Yes, Aajonus, I know I've been on the primal diet for a long time, and my question is in regard to the toothpaste. I've been using that new mixture you've got of coconut cream, tarramin clay, and apple cider vinegar.
Yes.
And I think I've overdone it because I got 1 tablespoon of coconut cream, 1 teaspoon of clay, and 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. It must be incorrect because my gums have become sensitized to where get bleeding because I've been doing it for about 6 months. And
are you doing it? How often are you doing it?
Yeah, I started out doing it every day.
Oh, well, that's not necessary. As I made a statement, it'll dissolve and keep it pretty clean for 3 days. Only if you have heavy plaquing is it good on those teeth where you have heavy plaquing. If you want to dilute it some more, use a whole tablespoon of clay and, just a teaspoon of vinegar and a tablespoon of the coconut cream. And I'd still only do it once every other day at the most.
And caller, tell everybody. Excuse me, caller. Tell everybody what you were using exactly.
Oh, Aajonus mentioned it. I was using 1 tablespoon of coconut cream, 1 teaspoon of what's called tarramin clay.
Tarramin clay, yeah.
And 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar.
And Aajonus, you say you just don't want to do that every day.
No, it's usually I suggested every 3 days, once a week even.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to brush your teeth with anything but, let's say, coconut cream on a daily basis. But to dissolve plaque comes from heavy metals being discharged from the brain out the gums. So it has a lot of toxic metals in it because of our processed and cooked foods. So what happens is the body will use a lot of calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and potassium to bind with like mercury, lead, or anything like that's coming down the gums, and that's plaque on the teeth. That is a defense so that the mercury, lead, whatever it is, does not damage the dentine. However, when we cooked foods, even if we eat raw foods, those free radical heavy metals are so toxic that they can eat through those alkalinizing minerals and start deteriorating the dentine in about 3 days if it isn't cleansed. So I say once a week, at least every 3 days, brush with that mixture, and that will keep the plaque removed so the heavy metals don't damage the dentine. And that's what causes bacteria. You damage the dentine, then the bacteria rises to clean the dead tissue so you can replace the dentine. Of course, nobody eats well enough to replace the dentine.
My further question is, I obviously really overdid it because I put a hole in one of my incisors, a little small hole.
Wow.
Well, it's unlikely that caused it. You had to have had, if it put a hole in there, you already had to have a soft spot there that was already damaged.
Okay.
But that will just make your gums sensitive usually.
Is it? I just stay on my standard diet to get that to heal up?
You could eat some cheese and honey together. How tall are you?
I'm about 5'8".
Okay, I would suggest about 2 tablespoons of raw no-salt cheese with a teaspoon of honey.
So that's 2 tablespoons of unsalted cheese.
Right, unsalted raw cheese.
And 1 teaspoon of raw honey. 1
teaspoon of honey, so it's very little honey.
Okay.
Now, cheese, when it's raw, will not digest. It'll attract the poisons that are dumped from the stomach from the stomach lining into the stomach and throughout the intestines, and absorb it, hold on to it, and then like a sponge, and discard it in the fecal matter.
Should I do that?
Raw cheese, when eaten with honey, directly with honey, not with anything that already has honey in it, But when you eat cheese and the honey together, you will be able to digest the minerals in the cheese, and then it becomes a mineral supplement.
Should that be 2 or 3 times a day, or?
Well, I would say you could do it 3 times a day until everything stabilizes, probably in about 7-10 days.
Okay.
And then after that, do it twice daily after your meat meals.
Okay. That sounds wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Aajonus, meat meals, for those who don't know what you talk about, eating some raw meats, do you then recommend people eat something with the meat, butter, vegetables, fruit, or eat the meat alone?
Well, you never want to eat vegetables with it because vegetables are alkalinizing and require a whole different set of digestive activity. We don't have much bacteria to digest cellulose, so it damages the system quite a bit. That's why your long-term vegetarians come to the point where they can't even digest but one food at a time, and then later in life even can't do that, and then they're allergic to everything. That's not all long-term vegetarians, but most of them that I've met. And I've met probably about 3,000, over probably 3,200 in my lifetime, and only 8 of them did the diet healthfully. So it's certainly from empirical evidence that we're not meant to be vegetarians. So eating vegetables with a raw meat meal is a detriment.
It is.
To the digestion of the meat. However, if you're eating cooked meats, then of course raw vegetables are healthy with it because it helps alkalinize and provide some enzymes. That's if the vegetables raw, of course. Salads raw.
And so with the raw meat, what's the best thing to eat with it?
Raw butter, so you don't burn up your meat as fuel, as pyruvate, or even turn it into an acetate.
What about the blood type diet? Another email wants to know if you think that there's something to that, and does it matter what our ancestors ate 4 or 5 generations back?
Well, I have to say that most of that is all intellectual, I'll just say it, intellectual masturbation, as far as I can see, because I've had over 50 type A's come to me from the type A diet, from the Food for Your Type diet, Diadamo's intellectualism. And it isn't based on, it's based on theory, not actual practice. So I had 50 type A's who were told not to eat red meat come to me with anemia and 2 with leukemia from that particular eating style. And as soon as I put all of them, all 50, it's about 51 or 52 of them now, on a red meat diet or put red meat in their diet, they got healthy very quickly.
Here's an email from Rosalind. She says, when indigenous people fermented meat and fish in the ground, making high meat, did they have to dig it up every 4 days? I want to ferment meat this way in the ground. Do you have any tips on making it out of the refrigerator? Tell folks what high meat is.
Well, high meat's when you let the bacteria in the meat pre-digest itself so that your bacteria doesn't have to be as worked in your intestinal system, doesn't have to be overactivated, since we're so low in it already. It's a way to infuse it into the body and help protein digestion, or any kind of food, the fats in the meats as well. And there are a lot of tribes that do it. The Eskimos are very famous for doing it in September. They'll eat anywhere from 2 to 3 pounds within a 24-48 period of the stinkiest, highest, most disgusting raw meat you can ever imagine.
Wow.
But what it does is that they call it high meat because it makes you happy.
Really?
Yeah. And it's high in bacteria is why I call it high meat.
And you eat that too, don't you?
Yeah, I did a Ripley's Believe It or Not, and had several patients who had psychological problems One had been taking medication for about 27 years
Mm-hmm.
and had been taking up to 7 different ones a day. And when she got onto the high meat, and she didn't eat as much as, just a whole meat meal of it. She ate probably a golf ball size a day.
Mm-hmm.
And she was off her meds,
Really?
in a couple of weeks.
Just all that bacteria.
Yep.
Isn't
You
it?
have to understand 90% of digestion is bacterial. 90% of all functions in our body are 99% are bacterial.
And bacteria is just all over the body. Small intestine, large intestine.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Every cell is full of bacteria.
So that will really play into the whole idea, Aajonus, that when we take like an antibiotic, then it plays havoc with the whole system.
If you take a 7 to 10 day round of antibiotics, you've destroyed 1% of the bacteria in the body. And you've got people taking it for 6 months. Every week they're losing 1% of the bacteria in their body. The medical profession loves it because you're going to be always sick. You're always going to be sick.
Yeah.
You're always going to be malfunctioning.
How do we install more bacteria into our body if folks have taken a lot of birth control pills and antibiotics over the years?
Like the Asians do and the Eskimos do, you eat rotten eggs and you eat rotten meat.
That's it, huh? Well, how about the fermented foods? Did they work? Is that good?
But that's not cooked rotten meat.
No.
Because they putrefy. They can make you very ill.
Mm.
Because just like we get sick on cooked foods, bacteria get sick on cooked foods too. So their waste is highly toxic instead of being nutrifying for it.
So do the raw vegetables or fermented vegetables, fermented milk and such, do they instill good bacteria?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so...
but your fermented vegetables are more detoxifying.
Mm-hmm.
So you may get colds and flus, aches and pains when you eat it. If you're a cooked food eater, it is a good balance. If you eat cooked foods, the fermented vegetables are a good thing.
Do you suppose one of the reasons why you intuitively are not that high on vegetables is that all these vegetables available to us aren't really wild or authentic vegetables? They're all kind of hybrids.
Well, that's true.
Do you think is that true?
But, it's GMO's the only problem there. Hybrids are not a problem. That's just a crossing of species.
You still do juices, though, Aajonus?
Yes, I do. I juice vegetable juices. I don't eat as much as I used to. I used to eat from 3 to 4 cups a day. Now I'm down to about 12 ounces a day.
Of a green juice of some kind?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have, let's say 10% parsley, 5% cilantro if you're trying to get rid of heavy metals in the body, about 30% carrot, about 30% celery, and about 25% cucumber puree.
Mm-hmm. Do you run across people around the country, Aajonus, that get into trouble with eating too much fruit and getting their blood sugar out of whack?
Oh, I did that for many years.
Yeah, so did I.
Lost all my teeth and bones.
Boy, me too, man.
And I went down to 118 pounds from 160. And my blood cancer resurged again from that diet.
Yeah.
As well as almost losing all my teeth.
You think it's
I just didn't make them fall out. It rotted the teeth.
My goodness.
Decayed the teeth.
You think it's a reasonable thing when we're trying to figure out the blood sugar thing to take the little test in the morning and see where it's at? No,
those blood sugar tests don't mean anything. That's a pharmaceutical way of getting people to take insulin. A lot of people should have very high sugar levels.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So you think this thing of 85 in the morning is a misnomer?
Well, it's to get people to take insulin.
Here's an email
run to a doctor.
Here's an email from Ryan. That's why we love Aajonus. Here's an email from Ryan.
If you've got a sugar problem, you're not going to get out of bed in the morning. You're not going to be able to get off the couch. That's an insulin problem.
I see. You mean even if
you've got a blood sugar problem where you get dizzy when you stand up because you've got low blood sugar, then stop eating high carbs. that cause a bottom out. You eat your high carbohydrate foods like fruits with some kind of fat.
Oh, the fruits with the fat, like coconut oil.
Coconut oil. Well, I prefer whole fats, like coconut cream or butter or dairy cream or avocado.
Yeah. You mentioned coconut cream, and in your books, are there coconut creams that you can recommend that are really good enough to purchase, or do we just need to make it ourselves?
You have to make it yourself. There are 3 places in the United States. I imported the machinery from Thailand to do it. So there are 3 places that produce it with low
heat.
It's like 82, 83 degrees. However, we do get the room up to 85 because you won't get as much out of it. As long as it doesn't go over 96 degrees, it's fine. But I've never found anybody that produces that way, except for those places in the United States, Chicago, Arizona, and where's the other one? And Los Angeles, that produce it. And if you go to www. We Want to Live, 2 is the numeral 2 instead of T-O, We Want to Live, .com. I have a product list on there.
Okay.
That gives the information on the very first page at the top of the list, the places that produce the coconut.
The coconut cream. Now, how is it made and why is it beneficial to eat?
Well, coconut cream contains coconut in general contains 80% fat, 15% protein, and 5% carbohydrates. That is the exact citric acid cycle of us utilizing fats as fuel to get the highest ratio of energy. Fats contain 2.5 times more energy than carbohydrates or proteins. So in the same amount of grams and everything. So I like coconut cream because it produces good energy. It also cleans the body very well. It's a very good solvent. It does not stabilize the body like butter or dairy cream or meat fats. It is used more as a solvent than those other animal fats. But it's a very good cleanser, and it helps lower the blood pressure and cholesterol levels for those people who panic about those things, and they shouldn't.
And is it advisable to eat this coconut cream alone or with other things? Does it matter?
It should be eaten with something else. With fruits, it's very good. It'll even be more of a cleanser. If you know what fruit cleans a certain part of the body, that you have a problem, where you have a problem. In my book, We Want to Live, in the remedies section, you go through there and find out what foods are used. And the fruits that would be used for that condition or that body part could be eaten with the coconut cream. And I always suggest a little bit of animal fat with it to make sure that while you're detoxing, you're also stabilizing the body's cells.
Here's an email from Jennifer in South Africa. Hi, Jennifer. There's a lot of recent research linking brain disorders with the state of the digestive system, i.e. celiac disease has been linked to schizophrenia. Can the raw food diet you advocate be used to treat mental disorders like OCD, bipolar, and depression, etc.?
Absolutely. Like I said, the high meats are used and work the best for any of that. Usually when you have depression or any kind of a depressive psychological issue, it's low bacteria in the colon. The E. coli and bacteria in the colon, and the major part of that is E. coli. The colon is even more bacteria than the small intestine. It's almost entirely bacteria, and there are no digestive enzymes relatively in the colon compared to the small intestines. It's an entirely bacterial environment. And those bacteria are meant to digest to the finest particles of fat and protein to feed the brain and nervous system. So people who take enemas, colonics, laxatives are destroying the intestinal environment and making some of themselves prone to depression or other psychological depressive symptoms. Anxiety is usually not exercising enough. People produce so many hormones for physical activity in a day, or they're eating things that irritate their nervous system that generate such hormones. If you are in anxiety, that's a sign that you need to exercise. So when the pharmaceutical industry gets hold of people with children with ADD, they will never be cured, and that's the whole point. Keep them on medication. You have a child that has a hyperactive condition, the child just needs to exercise like in the old days. We used to have a good athletic period for those people who needed it. And to give you an example, I had a patient who was a teacher, and she was hired by a grade school to teach difficult children. So all the difficult children were put in her class. And she asked me what she could do because, you weren't going to get these people to change their diets very easily. And she did encourage that, eating raw foods, raw fruits, and apples and bananas and stuff like that, and avocados. But she said, is there anything that I can do? And I said, these children are hyperactive. Take 5 to 10 minutes or 5 to 7 minutes at each hour and just let them go crazy in your room, dance around, throw things, and then spend 3 minutes cleaning up the room, and then let them sit and say the word Om. Now, when you put a biofeedback on the brain and you say the word Om, it completely puts it in an alpha-type state of relaxation. So by doing that, the children's excess hormones were depleted for an hour or 50 minutes, and the brain was put into a relaxation state. The children were perfect. There were no violence. The grades went all up. Everybody was wonderful.
Very interesting. What's your first name and where are you calling from?
Me?
Yes.
Peggy from New Mexico.
Speak up, Peggy. Go ahead.
Hi. I just wondered what he thinks causes osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis.
Processed foods, pasteurized dairy, anything that is cooked will help to cause that problem. There are other things that will add to it, like eating tremendous amounts of citrus. Anything that will rob the body of its calcium supply.
Is this a new disease, like in the last 80 years or anything?
No, it was found in tribes all over the world. It's found in New Guinea, the tribes that just eat cooked meat. That's one of the only 5 diseases that they have. Now, those tribes that eat just the raw meat are eating the proper human diet, which is an animal diet. So they only have 5 diseases, but osteoporosis is one of them. Heart disease and arteriosclerosis they do not have. Your vegetarian communities have a lot more osteoporosis. People who eat skim milk have a high rate of osteoporosis. But the body uses calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, potassium to bind with free radicals in the body.
And this can be fixed by eating a raw diet?
Yes. If you're eating a cooked food, you have all those free radicals and you lose, and you're cauterizing those minerals so they're only half as effective. It's been shown that if you pasteurize dairy, only 50% of that calcium is utilizable.
Well, how long does it take to grow the bone back if you actually
on the primal diet? It depends upon how much deterioration you've had. I've had people with deterioration that have come to me up to 37% bone loss, and it's taken about 2.5 to 3 years to correct that.
Okay, thanks.
Which is nothing. The medical profession says it's forever.
Do you think some weight resistance kind of thing or even rebounding could help a lady like that?
Well, not unless you're getting the proper nutrients. It's better.
Right, you got to have the fuel, huh?
Yeah, when you're eating the proper foods to restructure the body, and you have a disease condition, most of the time it's better not to exercise. Spend your nutrients on exercise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we can never eat enough to make up for all the losses and imbalances in a day. So it takes, according to Dr. Howell and Dr. Pottinger's work with animals, to get diseased animals back to a proper homeopathic optimal state took 5 generations.
Wow. Here is an email. Can you recommend, is there a good range for blood pressure, and what would you suggest to achieve this range? See you in Cincinnati.
Okay, I'll see you in about a month
in
Cincinnati. I ignore all blood pressure levels. People need varying blood pressure levels. If you'll notice that the pharmaceutical houses, when they want more money, they'll lower or change their measurements. Like cholesterol, 60 years ago, it was okay to have a 230 cholesterol level. They decided that they could sell more blood pressure lowering and cholesterol drugs if they changed the figures. I found that high blood pressure is very necessary for people who overweight or they have congestive arteries or heart. You've got to push the blood through if the arteries are congested, so you better have high blood pressure. So the pharmaceutical and medical industries are making people very sick and keep them ill to keep them going to the doctors and taking medication.
After 30 years or so with your host here on a vegetarian diet, my blood pressure was non-existent, Aajonus.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, I know. Is it? Well, should...
so was mine.
Yeah, so how... Is it important for your host here to get it back up into like 110 or so? Because it's like 100 now. Is that an issue, do you think, for me and others with the low one?
Well, if you're eating enough raw meat and raw fats, it'll go back.
It'll go back up.
Turn on its own.
Okay.
And, of course, eating enough butter will certainly help that.
Boy,
a
lot of butter. Now, why do you recommend unsalted, grass-fed, raw butter?
Because in my experiments with animals, it's the most effective.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what does the salt of the butter do to it?
Well, salt is an explosive. It's more volatile than nitroglycerin. So if you isolate sodium, about an amount of the size of a softball or 2 softballs is worth an atomic bomb. It is so volatile that if you change the temperature 5 degrees, it will ignite. That's why they don't use it as an explosive. It's too volatile. It can't be controlled. So when they put salt when they separate sodium, they never separate it completely for food. For table salt, they usually put a potassium in with it or an iodide with it. So you have sodium iodide or you have sodium potassium mixture in it. So it won't be explosive while you're eating. However, when it gets in the body separates the sodium and you have all these explosions. Those where the sodium has been reduced to a substance where it can no longer be explosive by binding with other substances, they will bind together, a clock calls clumps together, and then your body can't eat. When these sodium molecules get into the body and they get set free, they explode the cell's normal smorgasbord of nutrients. So a smorgasbord of nutrients is like 93 to 117 nutrients all in one unit. You have vitamin A, D, all the vitamins, B vitamins, fats, proteins, everything. 93 to 117 nutrients. When a cell eats, it gets a full balanced diet every time. When you put salt in anything in the body, if it's sea salt, Celtic salt, it doesn't make any difference. those are exploded and divided. So what happens when a cell goes to eat, it gets 23, 21, 19, no more than 50-some particles of nutrients. And so they never get a balanced diet. They're always deficient.
Wow. How do you figure that salt has been this sacred kind of a thing since, the beginning of time?
Since the King and Queen of England made it a big thing.
Yeah, even the word celery comes from salt. I mean, it's like this.
That's a natural sodium. Sodium when it's bound with other nutrients in a food is in the perfect quantity and relationship for us.
So you're saying that we humans do not need to take extra salt in any form?
Absolutely not.
Very interesting.
Yeah, the Windsor family, King and Queen of England, made it really big when they found that they could get people to eat lots of salt, because there were a lot of poor people in the world, more poor people and rich people for sure. You've got 1% of the population that's fairly wealthy and 99% of it not so wealthy. So when they didn't have refrigerators, their food stunk and didn't taste good all the time. So they found that salt made it more appetizing. So way back, in Christ's time, the salt became a big issue. Salt became a big thing with the Jews to preserve foods. So it didn't stink, but it caused all the other diseases.
Very interesting. Here's an email.
And shortened life.
What do you like to know Aajonus' opinion about the raw zero carbohydrate diet?
Well, you need 5% of your diet carbohydrates to utilize fats and pyruvate as fuel. So everything has carbohydrates. Meat has carbohydrates. Everything has some carbohydrate. We are so toxic at this point, we need some more carbohydrates. So I recommend a little bit more than 5% carbohydrates of the diet. If we were healthy, we wouldn't need any extra carbs at all. The gorillas, it will chew on some leaves, and they eat green bananas that are very low in carbs, and they eat lots of meat every 28 days. They'll eat like 14 to 20 pounds of meat or more in a 2-day period, every 28 days. There are tribes like the Maasai tribe that the only time they get their carbohydrates is in their milk. They don't eat any fruit. They eat meats and dairy and blood when there's not enough milk, and they'll mix that with the mix milk and blood together to supplement their loss of enough milk. But the low carbohydrate, is a very good diet. My diet is a low carbohydrate diet, and it's a good one. However, some people need more carbohydrate if they're athletic, or they need more alcohol in their systems to dissolve toxicity.
Ryan wants to know, what's the best thing to do to gain weight in the form of muscle?
To eat one of my lubrication formulas for women. It's called a moisturizing formula. It's an appealing word for each of them, but it's the same thing. It's blending eggs, butter, honey, and lemon juice together. Tastes like a lemon meringue drink, and have one of those with a meat meal. And depending upon your size, let's say you're 5'8" to 6 foot, having at least a pound of meat twice daily with one lubrication formula. I've had many weightlifters or bodybuilders who can put on anywhere from 2 to 4 inches in about 3 months.
Wow. Now, what is the lubrication? So we have the lemon and butter and honey and milk and eggs. What does that do to the building muscle process?
No, in the lubrication formula, it's butter, egg, honey, and lemon only.
Okay. Butter,
what
egg.
it does is supplies so much fat, so much protein at the same time, the body has excess. If you're working out, the protein will be used to build muscle to store that extra fat.
Oh.
And that adds and adds.
And that the proportions in the recipe would be in your recipe book.
Yes.
How to do that.
Book.
So butter, egg, honey, and lemon. That's interesting. Yes. Here's an email from Barbara. She wants to know, what is the value of coconut oil? What's it good for?
Well, coconut oil does a lot of things just like any good pressed oil. It will lower cholesterol levels for people worried about cholesterol. It helps as a solvent. It'll go in and pull out and dissolve certain toxicity the same way olive oil will or flax oil will or any pressed oil of that nature. Vegetable oils are not good at all, and I can go into that if somebody's interested. But the coconut oil will cleanse the body. It can help stabilize it in some situations. It provides certain oil-soluble vitamins, which help cells in resilience and strength. However, any oil is very limited. Oils, as a matter of food, are usually no more than, in the coconut, it's 80% fats. However, only 7 to 10% are oils. Oils in a plant are usually 2 to 7%. So when you're isolating an oil, even if you're making lard and you're separating a certain fluid oil out of the butter or fat, you're isolating certain nutrients. You have a lot of fat-soluble vitamins that are not oil-soluble, they're water-soluble. So those fat water-solubles are not oil-soluble, they're water-soluble. And there are so many more water-soluble fats than there are oil-soluble fats. So you're going to have imbalances if you use oils.
The vegetable oils.
Correct. Well, even olive oil, any of them.
Right.
Coconut oil.
Yeah, if you use it too much.
Yeah, you use coconut cream. Then you have all of the oil and water-soluble fat. Mm-hmm. And many, many more nutrients.
So even the very best organic, virgin, crushed stone thing, olive oil, you're not a fan of?
Well, yes, I'm a fan of it, but you use it as medicine.
Okay.
Like a tablespoon a day.
Mm-hmm. Really helps the kidneys?
Well, it helps everything.
Yeah.
But it helps cells cleanse. Remember, any pressed oil is going to be more cleansing than stabilizing and nutrifying.
Here's an email from, David. How can one reverse the grain of hair? Thanks, and P.S. Thanks for the vaccine refusal form. I'll mention that before we get out here. We put that on our website. How does one reverse the grain of hair, says David?
The grain of hair or the follicle?
The grain of his hair, to get rid of his gray hair.
Oh, his graying hair.
Yeah, graying, sorry.
Gray hair.
Yeah.
Gray hair is usually caused by free radical minerals, especially aluminum. It destroys the paraminobenzoic acid ability to allow pigment in hair. So eating lots of raspberries with coconut cream and a little bit of dairy cream or butter helps get rid of aluminum.
Oh.
So if, let's say, you're a person who's 5'10", eating 3/4 of a cup of raspberries with about 3 to 4 tablespoons of coconut cream and 1 tablespoon of dairy cream or a half a teaspoon of butter, will help remove aluminum from the brain, and that will remove it from discarding through the skull and then the scalp and damaging the paraminobenzoic acid, which is a B vitamin, PABA, it's called, in the follicle.
Interesting. That's where the gray hair comes from.
Most of it, yes.
Uh-huh.
I mean, other minerals can cause, other toxic heavy metals can cause graying also, but in my experiments, I found that aluminum predominates.
And can we say, too, is it fair question or a statement that just the lack of mineral absorption with poor digestion and diet can cause it as well, you think?
I've never found that to happen.
Oh, really?
I found the hair loss and thinning hair.
Okay, but not the grain.
Yes, not the grain.
I'm enjoying the show. Justin says, does the guest have any thoughts on thyroid problems? causes cures. Well, that's a big one, and that's one that's just rampant in epidemic proportions. First off, your ideas, Aajonus Vonderplanitz, of what's the cause of all these thyroid issues in our culture?
Okay, well, I can include all the endocrine glands on this subject anyway because it's a general one. The medical profession always loves to make specific things so they can give you a specific drug.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is our endocrine gland systems are not made to be functional, except in emergencies. Adrenaline's for fight or flight. Thyroid, parathyroids are to back up your heart and lung movements. It's got nothing to do with hair. That's the pharmaceutical industry telling you that your hair's falling out to get you to take thyroxine. And both men and women hate hair loss. The idea of balding will just send them into a tither. And they'll take any kind of thyroxine that's said will reverse balding. Now, it stops some balding, not because it's the thyroid function, it's because hormones are 60% fat. And they bind with toxins that can cause hair loss. So you just have to learn to eat differently. Because those people who it works for, and most people it does not work for, it does not stop hair loss. It does not stop hair thinning. 80% of the people out there who take thyroid medicine for hair loss, it doesn't work. So endocrine glands are for emergency purposes only. The thyroid, as I just stated, is for keeping the heart and lungs functioning. When you're asleep, your thyroxine is high to keep the heart and the lungs working. If you fell out of a tree, knocked the wind out of yourself, you could stop your heart and your lungs from working. They could permanently be stopped from the injury, from the blow. The thyroid and the parathyroids kick in. Take a look at that. You've got 2 thyroid glands, one on each side, and then you've got 4 parathyroids. No other place in the body do you have the glands backing up glands. And that's because your breathing and your heart movement is so important. So all these endocrine glands are for fight and flight, for emergency purposes only. We should not have high levels of hormones in our body. They should always be micro-trace amounts. However, since everybody's eating badly, eating processed foods, eating chemicals galore, food additives, and pesticides and herbicides, inorganic fertilizers, they have all these chemicals in the body is always in an emergency state of poisoning. So, of course, you're going to have high glandular levels, hormonal levels. And the pharmaceutical is just an opportunist. Pharmaceutical industry is just taking an opportunity to say, see, you need these, instead of saying, get on a good diet so you don't need those hormones.
Should the guys listening be thinking about and doing different things to raise their testosterone levels?
Well, you can raise your testosterone levels by eating testicles of buffaloes and stuff like that if you want to raise it quickly. Eating things like sunflower and pumpkin seeds together with some raw butter and a little bit of honey will help raise it. That's the nut formula in the book, and with an egg it'll even stimulate it more. So in my books, the nut formula helps that. If you want, there's some people out there that just don't have enough high blood pressure because the blood pressure is going everywhere else but in their penis. If you have that kind of problem, you don't want to go to a Viagra or any of those, because in somewhere around less than a third, but still that's pretty high ratio, the animals had penile deterioration.
I hate it when that happens.
No, I mean completely dissolution, where it looks like you've had your penis removed.
Gosh.
Because it causes rupturing of capillaries and veins. That's why if you have an erection for more than 4 hours, they say go to a doctor. Because you probably have bleeding that is rupturing in there, and you can't stop the bleeding, and it's internal. So your penis will turn black and blue if that situation happens, and when it turns black and blue, all the surrounding healthy tissue is dissolved and the muscle's gone. So if you want a natural Viagra, eat things like cucumbers or especially watermelon rind. Has citrulline in it, and it has the same effect. You may have to eat it every day for a week, to get it up to a par where if you eat just a little bit a day, you'll be able to perform most days. Of course, if you've got toxicity in your body, you're going to have a hard time with any kind of a healthy issue.
So interesting you mentioned that. We had a guest on not long ago that said that, well, you just have to look at the food. I mean, a cucumber looks like a nice big erect penis. Eat that, and it's good for it. Maybe he was right.
Well, there's that citrulline factor in the cucumber.
What is it, citrulline?
Yeah, citrulline. Now it doesn't have it in zucchini or any of the summer squashes.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the squashes is just mainly, well, it does in a few of the other ones, like the acorn squash.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not round. I mean, that's not elongated. It's not phallic. Acorn squash.
Are figs good for the male issues?
Well, it's supposed to stimulate prostate excitement, which is the muscle that allows for ejaculation.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different foods that you can eat to stimulate different things around the sex glands to make it active, and figs are one of them.
What do you suppose is going on? There's so many, we get emails from guys that waking up 2, 3, 4 times in the middle of the night to go pee. What's been your experience, what that's about?
Oh, that's usually the urine being overly irritating and less mucus lining the bladder.
And how do we over-irritate the urine? What's causing that issue?
Well, it's like I said, it's either low mucus production that lines the urethra and bladder, so that the urine, even if it's in its natural acidic state, will be irritating to those walls, to those tissues.
Ah.
So you've got to increase your mucus production.
And we do that by?
By milkshakes, with milk and eggs and honey together.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Well, Aajonus, one of my favorite things is raw milk with a couple of eggs and some honey and maybe a little dash of, like cinnamon.
Uh-huh.
Man, it's just like an eggnog. It is so
delicious.
So luscious. It's like, wow.
Yep, and you can take some nutmeg, the whole nut, and grate a little bit in there, too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can you please ask Aajonus his protocol to heal someone from ulcerative colitis? I think I heard him suggest raw eggs, but wonder if that would constipate me without having any fiber. This is from Casey.
Well, Casey, if you have ulcers, you need a blood clotting agent, and you can get that in a clotting agent, and it's just not only blood clotter, it helps tissue clotting. And that's green cabbage juice. Some people call it white cabbage, but it's not the Chinese cabbage, it's the head cabbage that is green. The red cabbage will do just the opposite. So green cabbage helps heal ulcers and helps stop bleeding.
Do you think we need?
Then the eggs supply the nutrients, as I said, to be able to digest in 27 minutes, so that you don't have to use your intestine, so the intestine can heal itself with all the nutrients from the egg.
Ah, I see. Aajonus, do you think that we should, or you recommend taking fish oils? Do we need these omega-3s?
If you're eating a lot of cooked foods, of course you need added nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the pharmaceutical industry saying, take these supplements or take these pills so you don't get well, so you can keep taking them. If you stop cooking, you won't need all those supplements. You'll need those additions. But when you take those additional products, you will imbalance other things in your body. That's the problem. Imbalance is one imbalance. You have to correct it with another imbalance. Pharmaceutical, industry has elderly people who take, let's say, low cholesterol-lowering drugs, and let's say blood pressure lowering drugs, they have to take another 10 to 20 drugs to counterbalance what those drugs do. So they're taking 70, 80 medications a day. That is that's quite a profit bin for the pharmaceutical and medical industry.
But do I also hear you saying, Aajonus Vonderplanitz, that even these natural supplementation things that go around that so many people take in isolation, even though they're really, say, high quality, quote unquote, they could also gum up the system, if I'm hearing you correctly?
They're all chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
They're all imbalances. And let's say you have to, anytime, even if it's from food, you have to extract that nutrient from a food. It takes either a solvent or a heat process to do that. When you use a solvent process, 99% of the time, the laboratories use a kerosene derivative or a grain alcohol, wood alcohol. Both of them are poisonous. Would you soak your peaches in wood alcohol or kerosene for 30 minutes and rinse it off and think you're going to be okay? It's absurd. So I don't care if it's derived from from a food, those companies, once they process it, it is no longer a food. It is earth that you can feed plants, and you can take those supplements and feed plants, and then juice those plants or eat the fruits of those plants, or give them to animals to eat, and then you'll get more concentrated nutrients of the variety that you're seeking. But that's a whole process, and that would be terribly expensive. However, getting any kind of a nutrient from a pure source will cost you $1,000 a pill. So all these companies who think they're putting out a good process and a good product go to a laboratory and say, I need you to make me something natural. I need these vitamins. And that company wants the work. They want the money. So they say, sure, we can do that all natural. We won't use anything that isn't natural. But what they do is they go to Purina, General Mills, General Foods, and take their waste products that have already been chemically treated and use those to extract the substances. If they went to a farmer and got the foods and went through all the different processes to get it to a supplemental form, it would cost you $1,000 a pill. So these people who are selling so-called good supplements have been hoodwinked by the laboratories who make them for them.
Aajonus, here is, I think we just have a couple more if you can stick around. A 39-year-old female from Kansas City, and she said, I've been on raw food, mostly vegan, for a couple of years, lots of fruits, soaked nuts, and I am sick, aching neck and shoulders, hair loss, usually don't sleep. I've just ordered some raw organic grass-fed bison, some grass-fed cow and goat cheese, and the Blue Ice fermented cod liver oil with high vitamin butter oil. Do you think I'm on the right track? Will these help me? And what kind of combinations of food should I think about eating to heal?
Well, as I said earlier, if you've been a long-term vegetarian, you're not going to have much digestive ability. So raw eggs are always the best way to start it. I've eaten up to 50 eggs a day. I've had many patients who eat anywhere from 18 to 30 eggs a day to reinvigorate their intestinal tract.
Wow.
To rebuild it and restructure it. So eggs are always the best way. But you can go on that approach. You may have, you get very, very, very sleepy and tired after eating those foods with a poor digestive record coming from the vegan diet. So, but they will definitely help. Eggs predominantly will help you the best. Of course, if you've been a vegan, your body's not going to be satisfied with just eggs, even that many. So you still might have one meat meal a day that's probably a half a pound of meat. And by meat, I mean any kind of flesh, whether it's fowl, fish, beef, four-legged animals, or otherwise. All those are meats. A lot of people mistake the word meat for red meat, and meat is any flesh food. So eating one meat meal a day would be very helpful with a lot of eggs. I would limit vegetable juice consumption altogether if you've been a vegan, except for maybe 1 cup a day. Stay away from fruits almost completely, unless it's papaya, and usually eat that with eggs and butter, and eat lots of butter. The cod liver oil, probably not the best thing to eat very much of, maybe a tablespoon a day, but butter, eggs, or and honey would be the most valuable in getting started.
Now, when you say butter, let's be clear. What about folks who just can't find any grass-fed raw butter? Can they do the pasteurized organic butter from Whole Foods? Is that going to do the trick?
You can, but it's certainly not going to do the trick.
I see.
Yeah, those people who say that freezing doesn't harm meat and butter or fats, I beg to differ. My experiments prove differently, and another scientist in the early 1900s proved differently that it did cause damage. So you can imagine that cooking causes even more. But let me just give you an example. I took a group of animals, 17 animals, and I was the 17th actually. So it was a divided 8 in one group and 8 in another, and I was the 17th. And I ate the raw meats that were never frozen, and fed the other group the so-called raw meat that had been frozen but never cooked. And every animal, whether it was a dog or a cat, and those were the animals that I used, all of those animals developed a skin disorder within 6 weeks. Within 10 weeks, some of them were so bad that it was chronic. One had psoriasis so bad that it was bleeding and cracking like it had elephant skin. Many others had scabies, and the rest had eczema. And the eczema was so bad that they were just peeling in those areas quite a bit. So all those animals were miserable. All they got was water and the meat. And the other all the animals got water and meat, some frozen, some unfrozen. The animals who had the raw meat and water had absolutely no skin disease. None. They were happy, healthy, comfortable at the end of the same period.
Very interesting.
So I knew that butter, in my experience, heals any skin disorder, raw butter. So I took the raw butter to experiment and see if frozen raw butter would be different than fresh raw butter. So I took the same batch of butter, froze half of it, kept the other half unfrozen in the refrigerator, and fed the animals that had the skin diseases, broke them up in half, and had fed half of the group the raw and half of the food, that was unfrozen, that was frozen, unfrozen and frozen. The group that had the frozen butter took 5 times longer to heal their skin disorders. The one that had psoriasis still didn't completely heal on the frozen raw butter. So when you're talking about pasteurized butter, you're talking about an even more radical process.
Yeah. So that's why when we talked about the glands and having a thyroid or adrenal or testicle or whatever lung, that the unfrozen is the way to go.
Correct, absolutely.
That's where all the prana is.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm curious then, for those of us who have four-leggeds and we give them raw meat as their diet, boy, that's a challenge to get that fresh all the time, isn't it?
Well, your four-legged animals?
Yeah, yes.
Your dogs and cats?
Yes.
It's very easy. Cats don't like high meat, but dogs love it more.
Mm-hmm.
They need the bacteria.
Oh, so just go ahead and keep fermenting it.
That's right. I mean, you can get more rotten, the better.
No kidding.
For dogs, yeah, most dogs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They may have a little diarrhea once their bacteria gets higher. Dogs and cats get these awful injections, vaccines that have no value, and poison your animal with mercury and aluminum and formaldehyde and detergents and ether and a whole barrage of MSG and other chemicals they say are inert. If it's inert, why do you have them in there? It's an absurdity. They are poisons, so it damages our animals. So eating raw is very helpful sometimes when it reintroduces the bacteria and the bacteria can grow again and the animal can digest properly, then they'll have a little diarrhea, a little vomit. They last a couple of weeks, a month, or something like that. You should let them go through it because they're going to get well. I have dogs I had one dog that a friend of mine had. It was a pug. It was 15 and a half years old, was blind, completely blind with cataracts, was completely deaf, had multiple sclerosis to the point where he could not even stand. His caretaker had to take it outside, massage his back in to even urinate. It was a male pug. And I put the dog on a diet of raw meat, raw eggs, raw butter, and honey. And in 6 months, that dog was jumping up on the couch. And this dog couldn't move. This dog couldn't stand. Jumping up on the couch, jumping down, running out the doggy door, running outside. Half the cataracts were gone. He could see light. He could see shape. And and almost all the skin disorder was gone.
Was it fermented meat or just raw meat?
No, he wouldn't ferment it. Afraid of it.
So if we want to ferment meat for our four-leggeds, we could just do it with the same process you talk about in your books, where you put it in the jar and air it out and all of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
You do it in the refrigerator if you want it done fast, and don't refrigerate it.
Mm-hmm. And they'll eat it.
Yeah, and don't air it in your house.
No.
Take your house up. Just take it outside.
I want to get to this because this is a sweet question. Let's see what you say. What is Aajonus' opinion of Down syndrome? Can there anything be done to improve this situation?
Well, Down syndrome is always a poisoning. It can happen from industrial production. Let's say a person is in a smelting plant and they inhale enough mercury or thallium or even aluminum, a combination of the three, a toxic combination of the three, will cause Down syndrome. Most Down syndrome is caused by vaccines and medication given to women while they're pregnant. I've seen it in the case of women who have those metals in their ovaries, and that metal is put into their ovum, and of course that's the greatest. That is the greatest creator of a Down syndrome baby. If a woman has those elements of thallium, mercury, and aluminum in an ovary, and it's produced and it's thrown off in the ovum.
Here's an email. It says, "Yikes!" I think you get that a lot. Yikes! Does Aajonus suggest that we should be getting our meat fresh on a daily basis?
No, not at all. Older the better. If you see my...
oh, I see. So get a bunch of fresh meat at one time and then just make it fermented.
Yeah, just don't ferment it in plastic because you get the BPAs in it and then you will get diarrhea or sick from it. So you ought to put it in glass if you're going to keep it for a while and let it get high. I usually shop once every 2 weeks for my meat. I mean, my meat's stinky by the end of that 2 weeks, especially if it's chicken and fish.
Wow. Gotta love that, man.
But if you put it in glass, the red meat's hardly ever, unless you're opening the jars and letting new air in regularly, the bacteria does not grow. It needs the air.
Aajonus, I have a friend who's dealing with Lyme's, and they've been doing research and looking at this thing called L-form bacteria, these cell wall deficient bacteria. Well, what's your take on things like this and these troublesome bacteria? How do we get rid of those?
The only troublesome bacteria are those that are man-made and those that grow in petri dishes. There's no such thing as a bad bacteria, bad parasite, or bad fungus in the human body. They are most of them are janitors right now. Before, most of them were, digestive and functional bacteria and parasites. All tribes who have trichinosis, the whipworm, digest better and have better strength and energy. And Dr. Weinstock at Iowa University 20-some years ago discovered that when he gave his patients trichinosis, their years, 10 to 32 years suffering inflammatory bowel syndrome, were cured in 5 days.
Well, isn't this Lyme thing, Aajonus, bad?
Lyme disease is non-existent. It's another smokescreen for the pharmaceutical and the food industry with their food additives causing a disease that is very debilitating. It's fibromyalgia, basically, with fatigue, heavy fatigue, and the so-called alternative practitioners have been calling it chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia for all these years. The pharmaceutical industry needs a new disease where they can blame all of the results of their medication on. So they're blaming it on ticks. They're always going after nature, blaming nature for everybody's problems. But if you look at nature, those animals, as long as they're not encroached upon, have no diseases, and they're all raw fooders. All the tribes in Africa who eat raw foods had no diseases before man started doing chemtrails and giving them vaccines, volunteering to give them vaccines and promising them better health.
Yeah.
Now they have diseases because of that.
Aajonus, do you think it's worth the effort or the cost to seek out wild meats, moose or elk or bear and all these? You think it's an uptick from doing just your basic cow or buffalo or lamb? If
you lived outdoors and were under extreme stress. Now, when I lived outdoors for 3 years and bicycled all over the continental United States, from Alaska to Yucatan and across the United States 5 times with my bicycle, trying to find out how to be healthy, because I knew I wasn't going to find it in this society with all the over-intellectualisms. People go to a school to learn for 2 to 4 years, and they come out with all this information and no experience. In the old days, if you wanted to be a carpenter, you had to apprentice for 15 years. Here you get nonsense information, mainly produced by the pharmaceutical industries, that's pumped and regulated into our school systems, and then everybody thinks they're a master of something, and they have no wisdom and knowledge whatsoever, and they have just junk science and bad information. It's really a shame.
So let's kind of wrap on a strange note, but what's your take on what's going on with this swine flu thing, and do people need to do anything?
Okay, nobody can get a swine flu. It's impossible. You can't get another animal's flu. Flu is created by the cells of the animal, and the cell has to be alive to produce this virus. Now, as I said earlier, viruses are not alive. They have no nucleus, respiratory system, digestive tract, heartbeat. They have nothing. They are a protein substance like enzymes. They are protein structures that disassemble cellular structures. They don't go in and dissolve it like, let's say, muriatic acid and make a soup solution of muck, but like enzymes, viruses go around and disassemble cellular structures, animal tissue, cellular animal tissue, to regulate and cleanse some specific part of a cell. And there are 300,000 various viruses that cells can make for each particle in their body, for each system. They have glands just like we have, and they have circulatory systems like we do. They are just a microscopic of us, but they are differently shaped.
Mm-hmm.
And most animals are the same way. They have a bloodstream, they have a lymphatic system, they have a neurological system, and they all have the same thing. So you've got all these compound cellular structures which require partial disassemblement. It's like you going to changing the spark plugs on your car. You're not going to tear the whole car apart. You're just going to change the spark plugs. Next time you're going to change, let's say, a radiator or an alternator or the points, something like that, if a car has points anymore these days. So you go around and take apart specific parts of a cell. You have specific enzymes that are for specific parts of a cell. To have swine flu, the only way you can get swine flu is if it's injected into you. The only way it can get into your blood is that way, or into your neurological system, or anywhere out of the digestive tract. If you're eating animal tissue, and that tissue, that animal had a flu before you killed it, or at the time of killing it, then you're going to eat some flu substances, but in the digestive tract, it's all going to be taken apart. And those cells are no longer going to be creating any kind of a animal flu that is other than you. If you, let's say, inhale, let's say you work at a factory, a farm factory, a pig farm factory, and you're feeding them all these bad foods and antibiotics, and they have a lot of dander, and you inhale that dander, your body is going to produce a human virus to dissolve the toxic swine flu cells that are in your lungs. You're not going to be producing a swine flu.
Very interesting.
The only way you can get another animal's flu is if it's produced in a laboratory and injected into you.
And do you think there's some live things in these vaccines they're giving out?
Well, anything that is active has an active energy, like mercury and aluminum, formaldehyde, and all that combination of 63 compounds they're calling inert that are all poisonous on their own are going to have some synergistic life. It won't be, a biological life, but it'll be an electrical and chemical life that will do a lot of damage in people.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're concerned that somebody may want you to take one of these vaccines against your own choice, we have some various forms on the front page of OneRadioNetwork.com that you can download and fill out and notarize and put them in your county or whatever you want to do with them, and they may help in that regard. Well,
I wrote a 6-page one addressing most of the chemicals that are in it that are highly reactive and toxic.
On your website?
Not on my website. You go to the man who handles all the information from my website, created a separate website for that. And you go to Say No to Swine Flu.
Say No to Swine Flu.
Yeah, saynotoswineflu.net.
Okay.
Yeah, www.saynotoswineflu.net.
And Aajonus, do you have your schedule on We Want to Live where you're going to be speaking?
Yes, it's all there. And I'll be going to Toronto the weekend after this, and then in mid-November, around the 13th of November, I'll be in Cincinnati.
And is it, I obviously you do it, it must be challenging, but you figure out how to get the food you want on the road?
Absolutely. There are farmers everywhere, and I know where they are.
You know where they are.
Yeah.
They're not going to hide. Well, Aajonus Vonderplanitz, it's an honor to have you on the show. Thanks for spending so much time. We had lots of listeners and lots of questions, and well, have fun and take care of yourself, and hope to see you in Central Texas someday. I'd like to meet you.
Well, thank you, Patrick. Some people have been talking about getting me into Austin.
Yeah, well, that would be fun. I think we could get a good crowd for you.
All right.
All right, sir. All the best from us. So take care of yourself.
Thank you, and you also.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aajonus Vonderplanitz, nice fellow, and just great fun, isn't it? Well, here you go. And we do have that vaccine refusal form there right on OneRadioNetwork.com. We're going to be talking to Adrian Salbucci, a very interesting economist and a revolutionary type from Argentina, I think this week. So we're going to have him for you next week. Lots of cool people coming up. Stay in tune to OneRadioNetwork.com. Make sure you're on our mailing list. Then a couple times a week, we don't spam you with anything or try to sell you anything. Just a couple times a week, we'll send you our broadcast schedule. And we need to be signed up to hear the podcast anyway. No cost. We enjoy your contributions, and they are really what support the whole game. $5, $10, $20, $25. Whatever you have every now and again, once a year, twice a year, whatever you can do, it all adds up, and it helps us to support everything that we need to do to bring you these programs live every morning at 10 a.m. on OneRadioNetwork.com, 10 a.m. Central Time, and then all of these shows, podcasts, and I think we have nearly 700 shows on the website. That's a lot of stuff. All right, you little pumpkins, I will see you tomorrow morning for Open Phone Friday. And if you've never been, we always have fun. A lot of just fun, interesting information about life, love, and fooling around on One Radio Network. I love you all very much. It's an honor for me to be here with you each morning at 10 a.m. I'll see you in the morning at 10 o'clock. This is Patrick Timpone. Take care. See you. Know the source on One Radio Network.